Hello there, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Adam's Reef, my reef diary here. Been quite a while since my last update. My apologies for that, but a lot has been going on, and kind of wanted to wait for it to all wrap up and see how things went before I took another video and posted. So have a little bit of a list of things to go through here. As you probably saw in some earlier episodes, I ended up with ick in this tank. I did a 45-day fallow at 83 degrees. And kind of just let it cook off and starve itself out. I was very curious where that ick came from, or crypto, for those of you that are familiar with that, where that came from in the tank, and it didn't come from my upstairs tank. I sent in a aquabiomics test, and 2 of the fish that went into this tank at first came from that tank, and that aquabiomics test confirmed there are no parasites, or were no parasites in that tank. So I thought that was interesting. Not sure how accurate that is. It's a fairly new thing in the hobby, but for what it's worth, and for those of you who don't know, aquabiomics is a DNA analysis. You send them some samples of your tank water, and they will either do a tank DNA assessment for the bacterial populations you have and get you all the genuses of bacteria you have, or they can do more of the kind of animal protozoan type DNA and get you back parasites, worms. 98% of the DNA found in my tank was from a few different species of feather duster worms, which was very interesting, but I did have quite a few of those in my sump, so it kind of made sense once I saw the results. Anyway, so it didn't come from there, and then the other fish that went into this tank came from my local fish store. And I put some fish from the same tank into this tank, and one of those from that same tank into my tank upstairs. So if it came from them, I would have guessed it would have affected both tanks. Well, not necessarily that it has to, I just would have expected that. The only other vector for entry that I can think of was I did add some live sand. It was bagged wet, and the live sand went into the tank, and possibly that was another entry vector for that. So that's kind of my hypothesis at the moment. At any rate, got those results back. Everything's good. As you can see behind me, fish are swimming around. And I did end up tearing down my old tank, moving all the livestock into this one. So that's kind of the next piece of the update. I moved frags of some of the coral I wanted. This is going to be SPS dominant, so I got rid of the majority of my Utter Chaos polyps and some LPS I had in that tank. Those are all gone. But I did keep a few frags of coral. I had a blue tort in there, a strawberry shortcake, a jack-o'-lantern, leptostrea are all in here. So few frags, they're still alive, they're not doing well. My pH is really struggling. This tank is in the basement. As you can see, the rock is still pretty white. There's not a lot of photosynthetic activity going on. Trying to bump that up a little bit with kalkwasser in the meantime, but that led to other problems. So while the tank was fallow, I noticed the elk and calcium and that were just disappearing to nowhere, and I'm not sure why, as well as some pretty low pH in the tank. So I thought, well, I'll start dosing some kelk to try and level those numbers out in anticipation of coral. Turns out that was a very bad idea. The sand from the dry rock out started calcifying, and I ended up with a 7-foot by 30-inch chunk of rock in the bottom of my aquarium. It was rather difficult, but I threw on my snorkeling gear and I stuck the top half of my body in the tank and manually just took my hands and busted it up and kind of crumbled it back down. And I'll stick a little video in here for that. You can kind of see what happened there. That took a long time to do, but in general, the sand bed's looking better now, and hopefully there's some bacteria and algae and things starting to grow on the sand to keep that from calcifying, because I am back to dosing again. Once again, the pH is very depressed. This morning I woke up, it's down to 7.6. Corals are not loving that. And then I have some slight, it's about 0.4 DKH consumption per day, hoping that is not going into the sand bed. So I'm trying to watch my kelk dosing very carefully and kind of cap my pH at about 7.9 with the kelk. Not to go too high too fast until there's more life growing in the tank. Beyond that, the other livestock that I moved included an emerald crab, a pom-pom crab, the video of a pistol shrimp here with his yellow watchman goby buddy. There's also a small candy cane pistol in the tank somewhere that I moved. He does not have a Goby companion, but I've had him for several years solo. Maybe one day I'll find him in the tank and I'll stick another Goby in there, see if I can get another pair. And then also a pink pincushion urchin. So those guys are all doing very well. I see the pom-pom all the time. I see the pistol shrimp all the time. So that's really nice that they kind of picked a home that's very visible in the middle of the tank. Beyond that, the only other one of the other things that's new, I did get some ABC reagents. So the off-brand Trident reagents from Neptune there, significantly cheaper, and I'm going to give those a whirl here in a couple months. Also going to be sending my Trident in for some service and calibration, probably doing an advanced replacement on that, so that'll be coming up here in the next month or so. Biggest stuff that's left is some cable management. Need to tidy it up back there, and then I'll get a video of the kind of the engine room, so to speak, so you can kind of see what that looks like in the updates. And I guess onto the fish. So aside from the fish I moved from my existing tank, we now have a gold-lined rabbit fish. There's a blue tang, a Pacific sailfin Desjardins tang in there. 6 Bengai cardinals that were the most recent addition. They're all doing very well eating pellets now. That wasn't the case at first. My Christmas wrasse, some sort of Halichorus species. And there's a pink streak possum wrasse, a red rooster wasp fish, and of course that yellow Watchman Goby in there as well. Sadly, I lost my clowns as part of that ick outbreak, so I did decide we're going to try a harem. We've got a big tank, so maybe going to try out a larger sea bay anemone at some point, and get 15 Ocellaris clowns in here, just some of the cheaper mixed varieties that are out there, captive bred, and throw a whole bunch of them in and see how that goes. So excited about that as well. I really love the look of Mark Levinson's skunk clowns in his sea bay, so hoping to replicate that a little bit with a harem of Ocellaris. Also ordered about, I think, 10 or 12 tangs for the tank, including in that list were 3 yellow tangs. Lost 3 of them to ick as well, so now the tank's back to good. Getting those guys on the list, going to add them all. Hopefully they're all small, get them all in at once or in small groups to avoid aggression and get them all cohabitating nicely. The Pacific Blue, who was a bully when she was in my smaller tank, I kind of bought her the size of a dime. She was itty bitty when she went in my 24 gallon. As you can see over my shoulder, she's probably a good 3.5 inches or so now. She was a bully in that tank, right? Not a lot of room. So getting her in here, she has room to open up, get out, and she hasn't picked on a soul yet, including the small sailfin that's in the tank. They get along pretty well. I think the only other thing to mention is I rented a par meter, so I have a better idea of my lighting situation. So as a reminder, I have 3 Radeon XR30 Pros, and those are Gen 6, not the newest ones, and 2 Meso Blue Mahina Pros, what are they called? Meso Blue from Mahina Coral. So Luca lives nearby. Talked to him a few times, and he talked me into trying a couple of his light bars. I must say I am not disappointed when they are on. There is a really good actinic pop to the tank, and they add a good amount of par too. So starting at the top, I'm about 600 micromoles of par around the top few inches of the water throughout the tank. The middle is about 400. The back corner is around 100. The back of the tank sits around 200 micromoles. The biggest surprise to me was along the front edge of the glass where I'm getting a lot of reflection. So there's a small chunk of rock where the blue tang likes to hang out in right here. That hits about 400, 450 par in the front and bottom of the tank. So that's 30 inches deep. Not quite, probably 28 inches deep, but quite deep in the tank to get that much par. So that's interesting. Didn't think I was going to be able to put acros down there, but now that gives me a little more variety of what I can do that low in the tank. So we'll see how that works out. Going to give that a shot. So today I'm going to do my water tests. I missed them this Saturday. I was traveling, so consider this water test Monday. I'm going to test everything, make sure everything looks good, do some cable management once again, and then probably go for a little quick snorkel again and make sure my sand bed is in good shape. That is a word of warning for anyone looking to get a 30-inch deep tank, especially when it's 30 inches tall. It's hard to reach back to front all the way to that glass. Built into a wall, I only have access from the back, so it is a challenge to get anywhere aside from the very edges of the tank with my bare hands. And I'm a tall person. I'm 6'5", so I didn't think it was going to be a challenge. Turns out still is. So maybe 24 inches tall for some people would be a little bit better, a little bit more manageable. But I really did want the height and the depth. This is the last reef I'm probably ever going to do, so I wanted to make sure I went big, regardless of those challenges. So that's where I'm at. I'll stick a couple clips here at the end of the tank so you can see some of the fish swimming around and see some of the livestock in there. Thanks for watching, and Ed, hit that like and subscribe button so other people can find my channel. Really appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Happy reefing.